You got me tripping, stumbling, flipping, fumbling. Clumsy 'cause I'm falling in love. You got me slipping, tumbling, sinking, fumbling. Clumsy 'cause I'm falling in love. Showing love,
Girlfriend, girlfriend.
Like a virgin, touched for the very first time. Like a virgin, when your heart beats next to mine, gonna give you all my love, boy. My fear is fading fast.
I make them good girls go bad. I make them good girls go. Good girls go. I know you're tired. Yeah, daddy's little girl, just take a bite. Let me shake up your world.
Your roses when they think you need to smile. I can't control myself because I don't know how. When they love me for it, honestly, I'll be here for a while. So give them blood, blood, gallons of the stuff. Give them all that they can drink and it will never be enough. So give them blood, blood, blood. Grab a glass because there's going to be...
Don't you wish your girlfriend was hot like me? Don't you wish your girlfriend was a freak like me? Don't you? Don't you? Don't you wish your girlfriend was wrong like me? Don't you wish your girlfriend was fun like me? Don't you? Suddenly I see, this is what I wanna be. Suddenly I see, why the hell it means so much to me. Suddenly I see, this is what I wanna be. Suddenly I see, why the hell it means so much to me.
I told the witch doctor I was in love with you. I told the witch doctor I was in love with you. And then the witch doctor, he told me what to do. He told me, Doctor, doctor, give me the news. I got a bad case of loving you. No pills gonna cure my ill. I got a bad case of loving you. A pretty face don't make no pretty.
I'm bringing sexy back. The mother boys don't know how to act. I'm thinking special, what's behind your back? So turn around and I'll pick up the slack. Dirty babe,
I'm in heaven when you kiss me, heaven when you keep me whole again.
My iPod stuck a replay. Shawty's like a melody.
Belong with me, you belong with me.
Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out?
Well, the party was nice, the party was pumping.
Hey, yeah.
And everybody having a ball.
Hey, hey.
Until the fellas started name calling.